We adopted these measures, and thanks to our moral filter, we managed to decrease poverty from 50% to 30%, which means that we have lifted millions of Argentines out of poverty. And it is obvious that this was the most important to us. And besides, we also managed to lower the country's credit risk from around 3,000 points to around 500 points, and we have begun to attract foreign direct investments into the country to a total amount of $100 billion US. Here in Europe, on the other hand, they have been following the opposite decision-making approach for decades. Just as was in the case in Argentina, albeit at a different pace, they first considered what was in the politicians' best interest, and then what was economically efficient, and finally, if even bother, what was morally correct. And they always do so under the guise of virtue. In the name of compassion, they attack private property. In the name of equality, they destroy merit. In the name of an empty universalism, they surrender the nation's sovereignty to bureaucrats whom no one elected. Every time European policy took a bad decision, it did so with a noble cause in hand, but that's a trick. It's a trap. Because behind every noble cause lies a very specific political equation, creating dependency and creating more voters. Every subsidy is a vote bought. Every regulation is a favor cashed in. Every open border is an expanded voter base. They do not do it out of compassion. They do it because it suits them. And they drape a humanitarian banner over it so that no one dares question it. Take, for example, economic policy and immigration policy. Everyone knows Europe prides itself on being a nanny state. That is, it takes proportionally more from those who generate the most wealth to help the poor, thereby violating the principle of private property and equality before law in order to redistribute those resources to the rest of society. In other words, if we think of the economy as a pie, they are focused on managing and deciding who gets which slice, rather than on making sure the pie keeps growing. This leads to economic stagnation, such as which has been observed in the region for some time now. And the further the seats of power is from the individual, the worse the consequences of this attempt at planning. National submission to unilateral dictates of supranational bodies replaces sovereignty and individual freedoms with the whims of the bureaucrats in power. When power is separated from the accountability that comes with representation, it can very quickly turn into tyranny. As a result of these actions, Europe has been left without growth, without rule of law, and today it is already becoming clear that its leaders have also been left without any political credibility. And none of this should come as a surprise, because as the saying goes, if we ignore reality, we can still never ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. Let us observe Brexit. It is obvious that what is shaded by politics, the ideals are not just shady complexes. When someone decides in favor of freedom, then things turn to the better. This is what we see in Argentina.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.